Edward Fitzgerald's Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam poem stunned Victorian England soon after Darwin's Origin of the Species had shocked their sensibilities. But they and the world came to embrace what came to be known as the greatest poem in history, and also the one most often illustrated. Omar had the deep and grand ideas, but it was Fitzgerald, as a kindred soul and poet, who dressed them in such fine clothes, attracting the world to them forever. The synergy of Fitz-Omar takes us far and away from the mundane, everyday, low-life, blah-blah, sitcom-type situations, into the glorious reaches of deeper thinking about the big questions, as well as to the great philosophical tenet of enjoying life to the fullest. Fitzgerald's transmogrification of Omar is near unbelievable in its excellence, one of those rare poetic products that could go on for hundreds of years without equal. Shelley was close, in his poem Adonais, as well as was Thomas Gray, in an elegy written in a country churchyard. See the concordance of the Rubaiyat online to see from what very plain original language Fitzgerald developed his stupendous quatrain gems time and time again. He even discarded some quatrains because they were merely quite masterful, instead of meeting the perfectly superb standard he had set for himself. I have restored them. All things roll on impotently, by Omar. We are, as Shakespeare noted, but actors in a play, strutting and posturing. When were we ever responsible for how we were or are at any given moment? What benefit to life then? I suggest it is experience, which can be mostly a joy, with Omar's love, drink, food, friends, adventure, romance, and feeling right up there, although transient but ever of the glorious now, and generally free of shame and blame, being in the paradise of right here, plus we being just as organic as anything else in nature, and thus no more important willy-nilly blowing. Round which we phantom figures come and go is an insight into the noumena from which our phenomena arise from, as a kind of holographic, phantasmagorial realm of the magic shadow show. What lies behind is difficult to get at, but there has been some progress, such as deep insights into our brain networks. The eternal sake from that bowl has poured millions of bubbles like us, and will pour because, well, in short, it has to. All things happening over and over again for all time. It's deja vu all over again. Which for the pastime of eternity he doth himself contrive, enact, behold, and the like is that, if one plays along with the myth, it is like that God thought of, planned, designed, and implemented humans and their nature, with an inherent wide-ranging spectrum of capacity for and from good to bad. However, in this myth, Take God bears no responsibility for his recipe, expressing itself in just the way he all-knowingly intended it to. Why his surprise and disappointment? Often big paradoxes mightily arrive when a proposed realm is declared invisible, and Omar is ever up to the task. Brave Omar knocks God without fear. When you shall be you no more, and a naked on the air of heaven ride, and the like. It is perhaps that they're not really a redundant soul ever living on, made of some invisible angelic vapor that duplicates and preserves our brain neuron network, which readily maintains what is already you just fine in some essence of an already evolutionarily expensively formed brain. Fitzgerald's quicksilver is either as the above soul or as wine coursing through us. Omar cites the limits to knowing everything as us moving toward a carpe diem centering in the now. He writes, "Evermore came out by the same door as in I went, but not the master, not of human fate," and so forth. Not being able to know is the same dilemma facing his impotent great wheel itself. And so Omar unveils his basic human philosophy for the human condition, the central tenet being the primacy of the now, over unborn tomorrow and dead yesterday. moving finger writes, and having writ moves on, nor all thy piety nor wit shall lure it back to cancel half a line, nor all thy tears wash out a word of it. While the above probably refers to predestination by Allah, as made more explicit in other quatrains, it can also relate nowadays to more scientifically modern views as to how each moment arises in time, in the now, and then completely passes away, wholly replaced right then and there by the next now, which process, or even processing, can't be stopped, much like the deterministic chain that none can slip nor break nor overreach. Whether there is being or becoming, as eternalism or presentism, is still an open question. We don't know the mode of time, for either mode would have the same appearance to us. What one did long ago is done, dead and gone, obviating any real shame and blame. But one must as well give up any fame as well crediting all to fate. Plus, indeed, can one really be held responsible for who or what they've come to be from nature and nurture? While Omar rails against a predestination by God, it is for other godless reasons that determinism might still be much the way events have to be, but for some possible quantum-level randomness, if any, which damages the will anyway, harming it, not helping it at all, as much as we somehow wish to think that our will can be free of itself, or that we or any part of physical nature can do the same to somehow be self-made entities as many first causes. It seems that for one to have God, whatever nature does is what God does. Omar reveals that an ultimate basis without origin, such as his causeless great wheel standing in for the eternal basis, cannot even know its own reason for existence, and is powerless over this and its state with no choice given to it for its being, it having to do just what it does and naught else, much as we may also have to admit to. It rolls impotently on as thou or I, or it just is, ever and eternal without a beginning or end, and what never begins cannot have a certain direction, design, meaning, or purpose put to it in the first place that never was, whose secret presence through creation's veins running quicksilver-like eludes your pains, taking all shapes from Ma to Mahi, and they change and perish all, but he remains. Therein, the quantum fields are the quicksilver. Thanks to you both, Edward Fitzgerald and Omar Khayyam, for the fine literature as well as for attending to the serious task of pointing out the dubious and the deep. Now we have more. Austin, Pete.
love.